wisdom on life, wisdom on drums, you know? It's what I do. We do want to open this up to Q&A. I'm going to try and move through some stuff. I want to talk about worship leading. How many of you guys are worship leaders in here? Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to talk about, church. Church is an interesting animal. There's tons of different philosophies on how you pick your musicians, what kind of musicians. In the States, there are no rules. Some people, they don't care if their guys are saved, They'll just, if you can play amazing, they'll hire you. In a lot of churches, it's a very well-paid gig. And some of the best musicians of our day are playing at churches because it helps them pay the bills. That's obviously requires a slightly different philosophy, and I'm not saying that's either good or bad. I've heard amazing stories from both spectrums. For someone like me, who I travel with, is a big deal, and not every one of these people aren't amazing musicians in more ways than one, but amazing musician is actually not my top criteria. I'm looking for someone, first of all, with a heart. I want to worship with worshipers. When I go and do different events, I'm looking for people, I need their strength. It's a lot of fun when you step into a room and people are ready to engage. You can you feel that strength. But I've played in a lot of situations where that is not the case. And they want to have you in. They want what's on you or what they see on your life, and they want to sow that into their people, but often it's because their people are nowhere near where that is. And that can be just a brutal thing. I don't know how many worship leaders you just looked out a lot of times and there's just a bunch of blank stares at you. Those are our favorite moments, We live for those. Performers live for those moments. Worship leaders don't. But for me, that's a time where I'm like, hey, guys, I need your strength as a worshiper. If nothing ever happens out there, I want to know that I'm with a group of guys who we're going to be able to get somewhere in God and enjoy ourselves and lift up our hearts before the Lord. And I need their spiritual strength just as much as I need their musical strength. That's a big deal to me. The other criteria for these guys is their ability to flow with me. There are amazing musicians who don't gel with me. They can frustrate the crud out of me. I'll be going this way, they'll go that way. They can do it with the best pizzazz possible, but they missed me. And that can frustrate me as someone who's trying to go somewhere, who's trying to chart a direction, trying to move people somewhere. I need people that are able to flow with me. And most of the guys that I play with, they know how I lead better than I know how I lead. And it's one of the funnest parts of life for me is to listen to them talk about me. Yeah, when he does that weird kicky thing with his leg, that means you do this, And I'm like, yeah, that's true. How do you know that? It's because they know me, they've watched me, they study me. And they've known what's a cue and what isn't a cue. They know that my left foot means nothing, but my right foot, on the other hand, that means something. And the other thing that we facilitate, which is super important, but it's also something you have to navigate incredibly well, is honest communication. We talk very, very honestly with each other. Yeah, that wasn't awesome, and you kind of threw that part under the bus. We have that kind of conversation. Now, we have that kind of conversation because we have enough relational history with each other. And I'll tell you this much, if you're a musician and you just started playing with someone, don't give them any feedback. Wait. I will never be, if Pope started with me, let's say he played one set with me, and he comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, I was noticing some things about the way you lead, and I just wanted to give you some pointers on how you can lead better. He would never play with me ever again. That's the bottom line. Okay? Until someone has taken the time to know me as a leader. And I'll be the first one to admit my faults, okay? It's not a pride thing. It's how you approach me. Until they've taken time to learn me, I really don't have any room to hear anybody's feedback. But every one of these guys has taken the time. They've suffered tremendously And in a lot of ways, they really have. And they look like the ones that made the mistake when really it was probably me that made the mistake or didn't set them up for success because I went into some place and they didn't know where I was going. And so they look like the bad guy when that's not actually the truth. But they have weathered that. And they've gotten to a point where we've begun to have honest conversations. You know, it's all about waiting for the right time. I never give feedback to someone unless they invite it. And what we try and do a lot of times, unless I'm the boss, which I am a lot of times, and then if I've got a job to do and I've got a mission to accomplish, I definitely step into people's lives and give them feedback. That's just something you need to learn to do. If you're going to be in a position of leadership, you need to learn how to bravely communicate. And of course, I'm not a jerk about it. But I can be strong about it. But of course, just saying, hey, we just have to have a conversation because they have to learn me and I have to be able to speak into them. Otherwise, I know so many bands, there's so much frustration there. Like you can feel it. It's tangible, you know, where the guitar player is just constantly at odds or there's this fight, there's feud going on between two different musicians on the stage just because they won't talk about it or they don't know how to talk about it. And I think getting your people to a place where you can communicate really honestly is a really, really big deal. We have to have really, really honest conversations. And our people are really, really hungry to grow. And we teach all our musicians, ask for feedback, learn to ask for feedback. Almost every one of our musicians, especially the ones that are new, they come up to me after the set and be like, hey man, any thoughts, any pointers, any way you can help me grow? That is someone I can work with. I really appreciate that when someone does that. So we foster that kind of environment. All right. There you go. Voice. Let me just talk about voice. Voice is probably your main instrument. I consider it my main instrument. And it's a really, really big deal. I think most worship leaders, they're incredibly lazy with their voice. And I know this because I was, and I've been around worship leaders for a really, really long time. I was lazy because when you only sing once a week, you can kind of develop bad habits, and it doesn't matter. It wasn't until I began to do music for a living. I did music for a living for probably 3 plus years. And I was on the road all the time. And I found that my technique for singing once a week did not work on a 10-day run or a 12-day run when I had to sing every night. In fact, the short story. Long story short, okay, is I damaged my voice. I partially paralyzed my left vocal cord. That's a long recovery time. You don't want to do that. It affects your pitch. It affects your range. It affects your longevity. It affects everything about your voice because your voice isn't able to make connection. If you guys ever seen pictures of vocal cords, they look terribly graphic. But there is 2 prongs in the middle of your throat, and what they do is they come together, and it's the vibration that causes the noise to make. They flutter together at some crazy amounts per second, whatever. One of the cords was slightly bowed, like this. So when it would come together, there was air that was able to come in between the cords, so they weren't able to make full connection. I know, it's weird. It basically means like I'm singing with half the power. And what happens is when you sing with half the power and you're used to having more power, you put more energy and more muscle into your voice. That's just a recipe for disaster. It's like having an injured, let's say spraining your ankle and just going, I'm going to run on it harder. Okay? That's never worked out for any athlete. Who does that? Okay? We do that all the time with our voices. I was doing it last night. And partially because I've learned that warm-up is absolutely essential. There's 2 things that are massive for your vocalist, hydration and warm-up. If you do these 2 things really, really well, the chances of you screwing up your voice are very rare. The other thing you guys need to be aware of is acid reflux. Almost every singer, it's the most commonly diagnosed thing ever, and most people don't know that they have it, and they don't know how it's affecting them. They'll have good days and they'll have bad days, and they don't understand what the difference is. 9 times out of 10, that's acid reflux. You're struggling with it in some way. You guys know what acid reflux is, right? No? For real? You don't know what acid reflux is. Heartburn? Guys, you ever had heartburn? But here's the trick about acid reflux. Yeah. Okay, the trick about acid reflux is that it doesn't always manifest. Obviously, when we have heartburn, we're like, oh, I had terrible acid reflux, and I didn't know it because it wasn't like heartburn. Okay, it was destroying my voice without me even be, aware of it. I'm on medication now because I have to be, not because I really want to be. But it's the only way I'm able to sing. And I tell you what, once I was on medication for about 3 months, it radically changed my voice. But everyone should have a warm-up. I could show you a really cheesy one that I do. It's, nope, not going to do it. I don't have it. I don't have it on me. Yeah, I'm not going to sing it for you, for crying out loud. That's not happening. Yeah. But, yeah, there's that. There's a lot of that. You make a lot of weird sounds. Let's just put it that way. But a good vocalist, and I learned the hard way. And here's the thing you learn about the music industry is I went to I was sent, most ear, nose, throat guys, they don't understand singers. And so if you get a problem with your voice, go to someone who understands singers. It's a different issue. Okay, and I had to go all the way down to Beverly Hills. I went down to the guy who Beyonce went to, and everybody in LA goes to this guy because he's awesome and he understands singing. And it was such a relief. This one guy's like, oh, you got nodules, you got this and that, and you're out of the game. And for me, that was like my life. It was my livelihood at the time. And I was just like, I need a second opinion. So I went down to this guy in LA. He's like, you can still do this. This is what you need to do. It's about an 18-month recovery time. You need to keep your sets to about 45 minutes. If you go past 45, you're going to be in trouble. You need to take a break whenever you can within a set. You're going to find you'll get more longevity if you just take a 5-minute break in between a set, da-da-da. He had tons of practical wisdom for me as a singer, which was massive for me. I had to learn how to sing differently. Okay, if you listen to my first record and you listen to my last record, you'll notice a humongous difference in my voice. One was using my voice in a terrible way. They call it my Creed voice or whatever. Scott Stapp, whatever. Anyway, it was me in a very throaty voice, and I've had to use my voice in a much more natural way. But almost all singers that I know, they're trying to affect their voice to make it sound like everybody else. Or sound like the people that they love to listen to. You need to learn the sound that your voice was made to make and be at peace with it. And that's a big deal. And once you're at peace with it, you're like, hey, this is my voice. Then you can begin to work on it. You can add texture to it. You can do all kinds of things to it. But you need to find your natural voice. And that's been a long process for me of being able to find it. But I tell you what, when I learned how to sing correctly, my range doubled almost. And I was like, oh, I can reach those notes and I'm not like dying. That's nice. That's all I'm going to say about voice. You need to hydrate like crazy. If you need to pee all the time, you're on the right track. Okay? I have to pee right now. Okay. What else we got going on here? Hey, if you're a worship leader, set preparation is the biggest thing. The biggest tool that you have in shaping the time of worship on a Sunday morning is the songs that you choose. It's a really, really, really big deal. If you don't have some kind of process, if you've never thought through in some kind of way or researched how other people do this, you need to. Set preparation, how you put songs together. I like to take people on a journey. And basically, songs are broken down into 2 categories for me. There's more, but I'll break it down into 2 main categories. There's songs of praise, and then there's songs of response. Okay? They're awesome petitions and all that kind of a thing, but I'm going to major on 2 things that I want to do in worship. I want to lead people in praise, and I want to lead people in response to God. Okay, if I'm going to do nothing else, that's what I'm going to do. So songs of praise, they're songs of declaration. They're songs that actually say, this is who our God is, this is what he's done, this is how he's acted. And you want to major in those songs. Worship is a response. If you want people to engage in worship, you need to set the table with who our God is, and you need to give them something that they can respond to. So I don't start with songs of response, if that makes any sense. Most times, I don't. I always violate my own rules from time to time. Okay, but I don't. I don't start with, I'm giving you my heart and all that is within me. That's a response. Okay? I'll start like a song of declaration is, stronger. You are stronger, sin is broken, you have saved. It's all about, this is who you are, this is what you've done. Does that make any sense? I'm barreling here, guys, because we're out of time. But I wanted to hit that. I will never start with response. I always start with worship. If you do anything as a worship leader, lead people in praise first. Okay? It's a really, really big deal. If I only get to one song of response, here's the other thing. Songs of response only have their power. They're only designed to fit in the context of being shown who God is. Like, people are ready to get down on their knees. People are ready to engage. People are ready to surrender their lives once they've got a glimpse of who God is, every time. That's where a song of response belongs. But I like it to be a journey. I don't like it just to be like only praise. That just doesn't feel holistic to me. Without giving people a chance to respond to the beauty of God, to offer something of themselves to Him, I want a whole journey. And anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that. Come with a plan, guys. If you're a worship leader, bands will love me for this, but you really, really do. I come with a very clear plan. This is where I'm going to start. This is how it flows. This is how I'm going to open the song. This is how I'm going to end the song. This is how it moves into the next song. Especially when it comes down to, a lot of times, if we're introducing a new song, we'll spend a half hour, we'll run out of time, and I already have that plan in place. So I'm not going, I don't know, just follow me. That's the worst. Okay? Sometimes it does come down to that, but that's a bad day. All right? What you want to do is you want to have like a plan. Okay, guys, we're going to hit these first two songs. I'm going to come into, I have it all mapped out in my head. Okay? Now, here's the thing about a plan, is I only execute the plan if I need to execute the plan. The plan goes on hold. If I step into what I feel is a holy moment, okay, I've learned to completely reject the plan. Or more accurately, I postpone the plan. Okay? We only get through our entire set if not that God doesn't show up, but if we don't stumble into like a really, really beautiful, spontaneous moment.
We're screwed. Let's do the set.
That's not a total truth. There is some truth to that. Most of the time at Bethel, we'll rehearse way more songs than we ever get to. Because we'll find a moment in the set where like, okay, there's something sweet going on here, and we're just going to let it develop. And the very first thing I had to learn is sometimes I would miss the sweetest moments of worship because I was trying to keep the plan going. I was so excited to get to the next song because I'm like, that's where we're going to do this, and it's going to be awesome because it works so well in rehearsal. If there's anything I've found is what happens in rehearsal is not necessarily a sign of what's going to happen during your set. In fact, if you have a great rehearsal, I really worry about the set. If you have a terrible rehearsal, it's almost a clear sign that you're going to have an awesome time in worship. I don't know why it works that way, it just does. Learn how to communicate to musicians, guys. This is a huge deal. We have worship leaders are the worst at communicating with musicians, and I have definitely been one of them. I've had to grow in this. We have people like, can you do that washy thing on the cymbals? And they'll have all these kinds of things. They have no idea. Or the worst is watching me try to communicate what I want with my hands.
No,
or
it's
with
beautiful.
Oh, no.
I love it.
Yeah,
personally.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. I am, fodder for their comedy routines. What's that?
Can you give me that like tribal thing on the hi-hat?
Right.
But like the modern like U2 version?
Right. There you go. Okay, you need to learn, if you don't know what those pieces of drums are, you need to learn what a hi-hat is, what a snare is, what a high tom or even a low tom. A kick, I'm working, guys. I know, I was terrible. Is Grace. Okay, thank you. All right. They know what I'm talking about when I say high tom, though. Do you not? That's right. All right. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. You do need to learn how to communicate to musicians. Effective band leaders know how to speak musically. It's a big deal. Have them teach you. That's the easiest thing. Send songs early, if you can do this, if you can pull this off. A lot of times at Bethel, stuff can change. Everyone knows that it's subject to change, and there's no apologies for that. But as much as I can, especially if I'm playing with guys that I don't have a whole lot of history, I try and get them songs early, and I get them the MP3s. We try and set our musicians up for success. We want them to do well. And it's only going to make you happier, them happier, everybody's happier all around. So we got 5 minutes left. If you've got a question that's burning in your soul right now, you are longing to ask us, Richard's going to circulate with the microphone. Raise your hand.
Hi, I was just wondering what role or what do you guys expect as a band and worship leader from the sound people and the mixers?
We expect them to make us sound amazing. Wow, that's a whole nother conversation. I would say if there was a fifth band member I could bring on the road, I'd bring a front of house guy. Because honestly, as important as this is, they make or break what we do every single time. A good mix engineer will actually, they'll help your set translate or they will throw you under the bus. And most of the time, we're finding that's probably one of the rarest gifts in the church is a great front of house guy. A lot of times they're just volunteers. They're people who don't understand the science of sound. They've learned a few things along the way. They've learned it well enough to get where they are, but most of them, sadly, are not tremendously qualified when it comes to sound. It'd be like me running the soundboard. I'm just kind of using my instincts. I'm like, well, when I push that fader, it does that. You know, it turns things up. It's a huge deal. I don't know how to stress. Probably the most important person that you can find for your church is a great front of house guy. Because not only will they help you sound better out there, they'll actually help you. Like our sound guys give us feedback. Hey, your guitar tone isn't working for me out here. It may sound awesome to you, but it's not working for me. It's not blending with Jeremy's guitar. Can I get you to either brighten his guitar up, or you need to tone yours down, or whatever it is? They'll tell a keyboard player, hey, your patch is, wow, it's really not working. I need something along these lines. They're actually helping you sound good because you can't hear yourself. You're not out there. And honestly, they're massive. I don't know how I can stress that.
Just become friends with them.
Yeah.
They're not like weird people that live in basements.
So good.
They're human beings. Honestly,
they are actually weird people that live in basements, but you still need to be their friends.
Right. Hey, simple thing. If they know that you care about them, they will go above and beyond to make you sound awesome.
We love key changes, you know. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, it's our favorite. And now some people utilize key changes in amazing ways, and it is actually powerful, as much as we don't like to admit that. But no, I have a bad habit of playing in the same key almost all the time. And I do that because I love flow. I love the ability to flow effortlessly and easily in between songs. And I don't do it all the time, but a lot of times I do. That is not typical for our world. When I first came to Bethel, actually it was very untypical. And most of them, they would change keys. They would sing the song, here's just wisdom. Sing the song in the key that works best for your voice, especially if you're a girl. It's like they haven't figured out that there's freedom to change the song and put it in a key that works for them. You know, be loosed, woman. You know, you can play in the key that works for your voice. Yeah, and I think that's a massive deal.
Can I say something real quick on the same thought? It's also really important to figure out what songs work with your voice. Oftentimes, if there's like an artist that does a song, for instance, if you're a woman and Brooke Fraser does a song, you have a similar range. You can, there's a strong chance that your voice is going to work the same way. You know, for instance, if you were to do a song that Jeremy does and your voice is dramatically different in the way that it goes, or Brian for that matter, there's octave jumps in a lot of the songs, and they're written for specific types of voices. So figuring out what songs work well with your voice is actually hugely important too. Does that kind of make sense? Brian really makes it difficult for other people to lead his songs, but he writes awesome songs.
Yeah, and you don't have to, ladies, you don't have to do the octave jump. Most of the time, like One Thing Remains, Like, you can talk about it. You can sing, higher than the mountains that I face, your love never fails. You don't have to do the octave jump. You don't have to go from higher than to, you don't have to do this. You can bypass the octave jump. Most songs you can actually pull this off. We use it because the dynamic of how it grows the song into kind of this explosive thing. But a lot of girls, they don't have that luxury of being able to do that, and you don't have to, so.
I have 2 children. I'm a homeschooling mom, a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they both want to play drums. And I'm self-taught guitarist who has no training, so I want to know what kind of advice you can give me for these 2 boys, because I want them to worship the Lord. So, what can I do?
That's awesome. Do they want to worship? They love him. That is amazing. Beautiful. I would encourage it. Honestly, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but if they know that their mom is behind them in their dream and their desire to go after something, they'll find a way beyond anything that, honestly, even you can do in the natural. But keeping that like love on strong and encouraging them in every little thing. And if they have something, like trying to find a way, even if it's a little tiny snare drum, you don't have to go full blown to get all the cymbals, but start somewhere, show that there's some kind of progress in that, and they'll go way farther than we could even hope or dream of. I don't know. I know it doesn't sound that much, but honestly, I know that would have changed my life. But I didn't have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, practically, you just need, I think, getting them some kind of kit that they can play is a big deal.
But
no. It's in your bedroom. You already have it.
You already have a kit. I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, shabam.
Okay, practically, it doesn't have to be
It's a
more
different
than...
conversation.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Sorry. I was getting all deep. Yeah, there you go. No more than 30 minutes, honestly. I know that sounds kind of weird, but if he actually practices and doesn't just mess around for 15 minutes a day, he will dramatically improve in 3 months. Now, I would just do rudiments, and you can, get a book or something, or I don't know where any of the music shops would be, but practice rudiments and just have him watch and listen to stuff. If there's any teachers at a music shop or music stores around, get him involved. It doesn't have to be an every week thing. That would be awesome if you could. But you could do something as simple as split it up and have a teacher teach both of them for an hour, for a half an hour, and split it up. And one can be there. They can both be there during the process of it and kind of learn off each other. If they both want to do drums, that's a bonus because then they get to actually challenge each other and pull off of one another. That could be awesome.
Okay, time for one more question. Greg? Sorry, I know you haven't touched on songwriting, but I just wanted to ask, how do you stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in music but still be true to what God's saying to you?
Interesting.
You've got
Not
20
in a bad
seconds.
way. Not in a bad way. That's not an often asked question. Well, I think if you want to write corporate songs, first of all, you don't have to stay relevant. You have to want to stay relevant in order to stay relevant, okay? I know lots of guys that don't care about being relevant, and most of the time they're not relevant anymore. And most of the bands and the writers that have written for a long period of time, it's because they're like, hey, I still have a passion to do this, therefore I need to stay relevant. I don't want to get stuck in a decade, kind of a thing. Some of that is just always pushing. I find, honestly, for me, staying relevant is to hang around youth and to listen to what they listen to be totally honest. Otherwise, I'd still be...
I don't know if you guys know this. He's more than 10 years older than all of us. So.
Yeah, I'm 35, and they're younger. So, honestly, it's really sad, because I'll talk about Pearl Jam, and they'll be like, Pearl who? What?
That's not true. That's not true at all.
All right.
That's not.
Actually, for a lot of these guys, it is. It's amazing. I'm like, what are you talking? You guys just gave me blank stares, and I mentioned Pearl Jam. Okay, thank you. All right, sheesh. 90s rock. Woo! Okay, but it's easy to get stuck in a decade in a sound, and I have to push myself because a lot of times the new sound is not something that I particularly like or love, but it's something like, okay, I want to grow. I want to continue to do this, so I need to stay relevant in my playlist in terms of what I listen to. Now, I always keep the people that I love close at hand, you know, but that's when it comes to tones and sounds. Honestly, we really do. Most of like the loft sessions has everything to do with us, who we've incorporated to kind of, you know, push us creatively. If you're an artist, it's who you bring into your life to speak into. Everyone has their ruts. Everyone has their sounds that, if just left to themselves, I'd write the same kind of songs till all eternity. You know, it's when I let people into my process. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to corporate songwriting, I almost exclusively co-write at this point. I have one or two songs that squeak into the corporate category all by themselves. Most of the time, it's a group effort, to be totally honest. And if it's a phenomenon that's happening across the world at this point. Almost every great corporate worship song, if you look at all of Passion stuff, all of Hillsong stuff, you're going to see multiple names behind those songs. It's because if three people are able to come into agreement with how a song sings, especially three good, solid songwriters, chances are that's going to multiply. You know, you're going to get a whole lot of other people. Me and Brian have figured out that if we both like it, and we both are able to sing it, and chances are it's going to work. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, we're right. It's also I'm gonna hit this because I haven't hit it at all. Co-writing. You're looking for someone who complements you. Okay? Brian is an amazing melody writer. He can write the most singable melodies all day long. It's all he hears. It's all he spits out. That's not me. Okay? But Brian is not. He'd be the first to admit this. He's not a great lyric writer. Okay? He would just churn out the most cliche, sung church lines, if left to his own devices. It's all he does. He's like, something like, da-da-da-da, and just spit out. I'm like, that's how great is our God. Well, yeah, I know. But, that's how, that's how he operates. As I have a passion, and I've realized this over time. I was like, I'm a writer. I have a huge passion for what a song is saying. And for crafting words and statements. And I found it's really a winning thing. Most of Brian's songs that, I've contributed, on, I have contributed melodies from time to time, but a lot of it's lyric writing, almost exclusively at this point. So you want to find those complementing things. You want to get around people. Here's the biggest thing. If you want to stay relevant, invite feedback. People will tell you, is my sound dated? Yeah, a little bit. Ask young people. Seriously. If you want to stay relevant for the next generation, you got to talk to the next generation. You got to be around the next generation. That's the bottom line. So,
guys, that is amazing. It was like truth hitting you for an hour and a half. Wouldn't you agree?